Well, welcome back, everybody, to Leadership Corner. Here once again. And if you're here for the first time, just want to let you know that you're joining in a conversation that we've been having over the course of 2021 about what it means to be disciple making in our world. And I know that there's all kinds of things going on in our world. The next thing in the news continues to happen. And it's real easy to get caught up in that. But we know that we have this one calling, and that is to go and make disciples, and everything kind of falls in line with that. And so this is an encouragement, a time to come around that main thing. And today, get the honor of being able to have April with us. So April Cheadle. So good to see you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So glad to have you. If you guys have not met April yet, she is a rock star in all of our groups. And one of the things that I love about April is she is rock star status, but you will never know that about her because she just kind of does her thing. And I just know that there will be wonderful things that we get an opportunity here. And so, April, you have a really fun and unique job, right? So tell
Yeah.
us, what do you do when you're not disciple making? What's your job?
Yeah. So when I'm not sitting here in my kitchen, normally you'll find me on the pool deck. And for the last 2 decades, I've been coaching swimming of all ages. But in the last 11 years, what brought me over to Western Washington was to coach adult athletes through the Masters swim team. So it started out as a group of around 60-ish athletes, and over the age of 18 all the way up, I've got some athletes in their 90s. And now we're close to, we peaked at around 170 athletes,
Oh my
and coming
goodness.
through the pandemic here, we're about at 140. And it kind of beyond my wildest dreams that I can make a living, no matter how small or how big, through coaching. And it really is my passion. I was a collegiate swimmer and have been able to continue coaching. I'm also an elementary ed teacher and a reading specialist and an English major, but I feel like all of that kind of blends in and somehow shows up in coaching swimming. And it's really fun to work with adults, because I've worked with students and kids, and it's everything's very fulfilling. But with adults, there's something special about the long-term
Hmm.
goals that they come in wanting to either learn how to swim, or they've been a swimmer and they want the opportunity to have it be a lifetime goal and part of their life. So I'm honored that they invite me into that, and I get to work with athletes every day. So
I know you won't say this about yourself, but you've been awarded a few things for your coaching. Can you tell us what those awards have been in the recent years?
yeah, I mean, part of it is I have amazing people around me. And when I've been able to work with my athletes and they're thankful, they have nominated me and supported and encouraged me. I've also done a lot of work to try to further my coaching. And so within the world of United States Masters Swimming, I've been awarded the National Coach of the Year for 2019. I received that. And that's an honor. That's a single award given out once a year.
Yeah.
I've received a Carrie O'Brien Award, which is basically an award that acknowledges the team building, unity, encouragement, being an all around coach. So, whereas the other one was the impact I've made in the community of coaching for the nation. So,
Okay.
so again, it's an honor. I try to not let it get up to my head, and I just want to focus on the relationships that I have with my athletes, and even if they might spread across many states, not just here in the area, but it is an honor to work with people who are coachable and who want to be part of this team. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So clearly, if the people on your team have seen something in you enough that they've nominated you, and this has led to you going down to Florida and you being nominated. Just so cool. I
Yeah.
remember you coming back, and that was just so much fun to celebrate. I know it's been a couple of years, but still, just congratulations. I think that was so cool to be honored in that way.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my coaching watch just so I could feel like I'm off the deck today, but I'm like can't leave it off.
I love it. And so, as a coach,
Mhm.
how have you found coaching to be similar to disciple making? Have you seen any similarities? And if so, where do you see those parallels?
Yeah, a couple different things come to mind. And in some ways, being in discipleship has helped my coaching,
Mm,
and I think coaching has helped my disciple making. But really, like when I have an athlete that walks on the deck for the first time, they're coming to me because I have the title of coach, which means they're assuming quite a few things that I have a knowledge base, and that they're willing to put trust out there to let me help them, to join them. Um, but really, they want to know, do I know them?
mm,
Like, do I know their name? Am I willing to step into relationship with them?
mm,
Am I willing to invest in knowing their story and meeting them where they are? And I don't expect an athlete to come and have the ability to do flip turns um, or butterfly stroke or things like that. So the same
mm,
way with discipleship, it's um, really making sure that the relationship is there, that I'm spending time getting to know the gals in my life, who I'm partnered alongside with, and also knowing that um, I can't expect them to be somewhere that they're not. I need to recognize and kind of assess as a coach, where are they? And I love it because this is the one wonderful part, like partnered with Jesus, is that he's ultimately going to be doing the work.
mm,
He's asked me to partner with him in it. Um, but we see through all of our Bible stories that Jesus meets people where they are. He acknowledges where they are. He doesn't just accept them and leave them there, but he says, I acknowledge where you are. I'm meeting you here. But no one who met with Jesus leaves unchanged.
mm.
Think of like the woman who was bleeding for 12 years, and she's like, if I could just touch the hem of his robe,
Yeah.
and or the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman. And I mean, both those women, but I'm thinking of like the lepers and the blind men and the demon
Hmm.
possessed, like they all had an interaction with Jesus. He met them there where they were, and they left changed.
Mm,
And so the same thing is true in our discipleship groups, in my coaching, is that I want to meet athletes or ladies where they are.
hmm.
And but I know that in the process of discipling, that we're going to move, that the goal
Mm,
would not just to be like, oh, here you are and I'm just going to let you stay there, but to have the dream, the desire, the prayer that Jesus is going to walk us forward into transformation, into a new life. And that's the
mm.
gospel. That's what he's promised us. He's not just going to leave us
Amen.
where we are. And so that's very hopeful for me, because we encounter a lot of stuff in this
Mm,
life. And I don't want to just stay in my stuff. I'm just so thankful that Jesus, in his wisdom, is moving us forward. And if I continue to put my trust in him. So I see that, and it's
mhm,
very freeing for me as a disciple maker to
mm,
say, okay, here's where you are. I'm kind of assessing where you are. I'm meeting you there. I'm partnering up with you there. But then I know that we're going to move forward. And so in that, it brings an intentionality of, in my coaching, I am always looking at what's the next step.
mm,
Um, where do I want to take this athlete? And then as a disciple maker, starting to anticipate, what is this person going to need next? What tools do they need? What
mm,
do I need to teach them that they might not already know? Um, and so that's one of the big parts. Like, do they know how to study the Bible? Do they know how to memorize? Do they know how to pray? So just things that sometimes I forget that we learned how to do,
yeah.
and that Jesus taught us how to do. And so I'm like, well, if Jesus taught us how to pray, it's something we can all learn, and we're invited into. And so I think as a coach, I transfer that information of, am I looking forward? Am I anticipating? Am I encouraging? And kind of seeing a little bit further ahead down the path of where we'd love to go. I can't force anybody there, but I can certainly say, hey, if your goal is to follow Jesus, like my goal is to follow Jesus, then this is where we could go next. Do you want to join me in doing that? So that's a lot of what that is.
I've noticed as a disciple maker, you will often share victories, little things with me that probably other people would just miss. And I've often thought, like, I wonder if this happens with swimming as well. Like, people would see things but just miss or not see things. But you notice them as a coach. So can you speak to that at all?
Yeah. And I think that's being able to celebrate and recognize that any change is such a huge deal, especially as adults. Getting out of our comfort zone is so huge and awkward and uncomfortable. And one thing that my athletes hear me say all the time is, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Let that start to be someplace that you put yourself into. And so when you start pushing out into that zone of like, wow, it's not very comfortable, I'm doing things I wouldn't normally do, I feel a little out of control, that's where I start celebrating, because I know for myself how hard it is to like get out of my comfort zone. And yet I'm asking athletes, I'm asking my discipleship gals, Jesus is asking me to move out of my comfort zone. And I know how much Jesus is smiling in those moments when I'm like, oh, I just did something that was very uncomfortable for me that might be very normal for somebody else, but maybe it was sharing my opinion of something, or boldly stating something where I would have been like, oh, I'll let somebody else take that one, And so I recognize that there might be quite a few people, and I see it in my athletes, that those little moments really are a turning point for big things to come, but that it starts small. And a lot of times I tell my athletes, but it's only because I've learned it as myself, like that, I'm not going to ask you to do more than you can handle. As a coach, I'm going to push you. I'm certainly going to put challenges out there, but I still want you to be successful. And sometimes I can see that you're more capable than you even realized you are. And so being able to say, are we encouraging our fellow disciples by saying, yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable, but right at the edge of that is where the adventure starts, and we can really get excited about that. And so supporting, encouraging, I think that's a big part of what I love as a coach, is celebrating those little victories, and recognizing and seeing people, because people need to be seen, and I want people to know that I'm watching, and that I'm with them, that they're not alone. So I hope that my girls in my discipleship group feel that too, that they're not alone, that I'm with them, that there's support being offered. And so
that's awesome. So you said something just a moment ago that's got me intrigued, and that is this idea of not giving people more than they can handle.
Yeah.
And as a coach, I thought I heard you say, like, you see that this person might be able to handle more than what they can see that they can handle.
Yeah.
So have you had moments in which that has created a moment of tension, whether it's in the pool or in a group?
Definitely. I mean, and that's perceptive of you, because I know you're an athlete too, Mario, and that point of
Former.
Or I'm going to say once an athlete, always an athlete.
Fair enough.
My appetite can't eat as much as I used to when I was an athlete, but my brain still thinks it can.
Yes,
But,
indeed. Come on.
But the idea there, yes, is the opportunity might be offered. I might put it out there and say, I'm gonna give you this workout, this set, this challenge, or in our discipleship group, ask to, would you lead our prayer, or would you do something that for maybe that gal is uncomfortable? Will you share this story with somebody this week? Because I know that they can, but ultimately it depends on if they walk into it, and I will support them all the way up to the point where the rubber hits the road, and some will walk into it, and once they go in there, we're celebrating, we're pushing. There might be tears, there might be frustrations, there might be doubts, but then they do it, and all of a sudden, once you've done something that you'd never done before, there's no going back to what it used to be. Now you've made that jump forward. And if I ask for that again, there's that confidence of, I've done that. And I can also trust the person who's asked me to do that. And so building the trust to even ask for something that's hard is something that I spend time working on. So that's why, like, starting with that relationship first, I don't feel like I could ask somebody to do something if I didn't already have a relationship of trust that I was building. So, because there are definitely times that create a lot of tension. I've had caps get thrown and goggles, and water bottles, and swimmers are not very aggressive, really, but the idea there just being that it is going to be tough, and then at the end of it, whether the athlete or the person walked into that opportunity or not, I remind them that it's okay. We're going to have another opportunity again soon. Mm. And it doesn't mean, oh, you missed that one, you're done. And so with my discipleship group, it's encouraging to see gals that are maybe 2 weeks ago, they weren't ready to pray out loud. And that's okay. I made the offer. They weren't quite ready. That's okay. 2 weeks later, I ask again, hey, would you be willing to pray over this, or pray out loud, or take this on? And okay, yeah, I think I'm ready now. And I know that that's, God's already working on their heart. I just have to be faithful in asking and helping create the opportunities. Yeah. Because then once they've done it, like they're at a different place of, okay, I can do this, and we're all called to do it. And so the part I love in our discipleship group is that everyone has an opportunity to take a role in every component of what makes our group work. Whether it's sharing an icebreaker, going through our group guidelines, sharing our definition, opening prayer, closing prayer, asking for prayer requests, sharing the story, asking questions. So there's a lot of opportunities where people can plug in where they feel comfortable. And then once I can see, okay, they're comfortable there, then I can kind of come along and say, all right, I'm going to push you just a little bit. That's because I love you.
Just right off the diving board into the water. And
I'm not that bad. I don't want to traumatize anybody. So, no. So,
that's great.
I'll give you the little floaty if you're going to go in the deep. So.
In discipleship, in disciple making, what are some of the things that you notice? What are some of the little things that you notice that can often get missed, that you find yourself celebrating?
I celebrate those moments when I hear different discipleship gals saying, like, oh, my heart's being changed. I can only listen to this kind of music, or my taste in what I'm watching or reading has changed, or how I responded to my kids is different now. And those are things that I celebrate because I didn't do anything. Clearly, it was the Holy Spirit already at work. And And so it's more just a celebration with Jesus of saying that's the, um, but saying like, oh, and acknowledging, look what Jesus is doing in your life.
Yeah.
Because I think that's important to give God the glory and the honor where he is working. Because it's too easy to say, oh, I did it myself. I've been working on my self-help, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if we're not turning that over and saying, Lord, you ultimately can make these changes in my life and give me the strength and the power to fight my addictions, to change behaviors, to address what needs to be dug out. He's the one who has the power and the ability to take us through that, but he also has the hope on the other side.
Right.
And so that's really what I celebrate, is that these people are climbing out of a pit, and they're not doing it alone. But that's what I can celebrate, is that, God is equipping them. And the more we spend time saying, hey, here's a book a book or a podcast or a YouTube video that's going to encourage or support or meet you where you are, that talks about how God can work in that, or gives a Bible story pointing back to Jesus that is applicable and relatable. And then people can say, okay, yeah, I'm not alone in this.
So one of the things I think I heard you say as a coach is this idea that you see where people are, you get a sense of where they're at, and you try to help them move there. And I think for me, one of the words I often use is kind of being really intentional about assessing and then doing what's necessary to help a person move. I know we can't make them move, but I'm just curious what you might say to somebody who's watching this. And again, we do have people that are checking this out for the first time, and they're trying to figure out like this whole disciple making thing, intentionality assessment. That all sounds so weird. Like, aren't we just supposed to be like just hanging out and organic and being in a group and kind of kumbaya and let things kind of go where they go? What would you say to the person who is more of that ilk that says, I think we should just kind of let things kind of just simply unfold?
Yeah. And I know, because I run that balance of like, oh, I just want to just let it be. But as a coach, I also recognize that it would be foolhardy of me to not have a sense of where someone was coming into my pool, and to put them in a situation or position where they could get injured, or they might not be able to understand something clearly or the way that it was intended. And I think that part of assessing really is just to identify, to give me a chance to put myself in a place with that person where they are going to be the most successful, and to ask them things that are appropriate for them. I want things to be us to have conversations and things like that. But if I ask a question that's beyond somebody, it's just going to make them frustrated. And in the world of education, we try to go and avoid that frustration point. So once somebody is frustrated, whether in the pool or in a classroom or in a conversation, there's a lot of things that shut down. There's no longer a back and forth reciprocity of, will you receive some information? Tell me how that sat with you. And so part of what I do as a coach is identifying, is this person ready to receive this information? Can I ask them to take this next step if they don't quite understand what the first step was? And so some people come in and they move very quickly through multiple stages, like, and I'm just always blown away. So one thing I also know as a coach is that once I've kind of identified where someone may be when I first meet them, I don't lock them in my brain there, though. There's room for growth and for being able to let them move at their own pace, because some people are going to take 3 months to get a concept, and some people might only take 3 hours. And so if I don't constantly kind of keep assessing, then I might be giving them something that they've already grown past, and they're and they're frustrated because it's not challenging them,
Mm.
or I might be giving them something that they're frustrated with because it's too advanced, and I've asked them to do something that I didn't help them to build up to.
Mm.
So, so definitely recognizing, using assessment to kind of say, am I meeting you where you are? Are you going to be able to receive? Are we going to be able to have the conversation that we both want to have? Is ultimately the goal of assessing, because I know, like, just for example, I mean, I don't personally have any kids, but I'm an auntie and I've taught. When I'm meeting kids for the first time, I'll get down because I'm 5'10". I'll get down on their level because I want to meet them there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm this big hunkin' scary swimmer girl way up there, and they're just looking at my chin. And so, and so I want to get down eye to eye, and that's what I want to do with anybody. Is I want to meet them eye to eye and say, hey, I hear you, I see you, I want to know your story. I want you to know that I'm with you. And so that's what I do with coaching, but I also think that that's kind of what this assessing is doing, is to really say, I want to show you that I'm ready to meet you where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can know how to go forward into the next steps, because I certainly don't want to just leave you there, especially with athletes coming in saying, my goal is to go to do an Ironman, and my goal is to swim to the other end of the pool, and my goal is to be able to go to Hawaii and not get tumbled in the waves. So whatever that goal is, I need to assess and know that I'm meeting them where it's appropriate for their goal. So they would also get frustrated at me and go like, well, that coach doesn't listen to me, or that coach doesn't care about me, if I didn't already assess in some way. And I think we can do some assessing without it being completely obvious of like, now you seem like a spiritual young adult on, but to be able to say, okay, I'm seeing you respond this way, and I'm looking at your motivation for that, and I'm going, okay, I can see where you might be, and how I will change how I come and approach you, so that you're receptive to what I might have to share too.
So if somebody wanted to take some of these ideas of coaching further, what resource has impacted you the most, or resources that you would say, hey, you should probably check these out to continue your journey?
Yeah, I don't have any like other than like non-swimming coaching related materials, but things that I know that have benefited the gals in my group and me personally, are just ways to spend time in the Word and to see how Jesus works. And so, like for our group, podcasts and YouTube are an easier way for people to spend time growing. And so, spoken gospel is a great both podcast and YouTube, and gives kind of a recap, but the main goal is to see Jesus in every scripture. So from the Old Testament looking forward to the New Testament, I appreciate that. And one of my favorite books, Lee Strobel's, well, two really, but like A Case for Faith and A Case for Christ, especially as we're looking at, I've got a lot of gals in my group who come from a very academic or science background, and those have been very beneficial, because I certainly don't expect to know everything. And that's part of the fun also of being a disciple maker, is people ask great questions and I don't know all of them, the answers to all of them. So I get to go say, hey, let's figure that out together. Like, let's see what we can find. So I know like gotquestions.org is a good resource too. And again, all of those are tools, but ultimately we should be taking what we read there back to our time with Jesus and saying like, okay, like, help me bring clarity to this. What is this? Am I reading this correctly? And so, so those are a couple different things, not necessarily coaching related, but I feel like they've helped me as a discipler.
Yes.
Let's partner up, or let's figure this out, or let's go dive in this together and
Yeah,
see
no,
what we
it's
can
so
find.
good. And we need good resources when we find ourselves in those places where it goes beyond us, like you just mentioned, to be able to help people along the way.
Yeah.
And as you said, the beauty of it is we don't have to know all the answers,
Yeah.
but there is a wonderful abundance of information that can help us along the way. So,
Yeah.
April, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time out of, I know some of the pace of your life, and I appreciate you slowing down to invest not only in me in this time, but everybody who has an opportunity to hear this. I know that we'll be impacted by it. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Mario. I mean, I'm excited just because I know we're all called to be disciple makers. I hope people are encouraged and motivated to keep going after Jesus and help others do the same. So
Absolutely. And that's exactly it. May that be the case for you. May you be encouraged just to keep on with what God has called you to, and the people in our lives that God has placed there. Let's make the most, be intentional, and help them move forward in the things of the kingdom. I believe God's honored by that. Uh, Thank you so much for taking time to tune in this week. We'll pick up the conversation next week as we continue to explore what it means to assess well, what it means to dive into people's lives well. So tune in next week as we unpack it some more. God bless, and we look forward to seeing you then.